Hey everybody, I'm here with Bill Phillips. For those of you who may have seen my post about Bill recently, he's a very impressive individual. Bill's 85 years old. He's still hitting the weights 4 times a week. He's fit as a fiddle. He's also been married for 60 years now. He and his wife do a world cruise for 4 months a year, every year. In addition to that, Will Wilkinson just joined us. If you want to say hi to Will.
I will.
In addition to that, Bill also runs his company, which he started 25 years ago. So he is living life to the fullest for an 85-year-old. I thought he's a tremendous role model to all of us. And I thought I would take an opportunity to interview him and give him a forum to share some of, share some of his life advice with us. So to begin, Bill, do you mind explaining to us, how did you get to this point in life and your career?
Well, it's a long story, but basically, from humble beginnings, a lack of education. I left school when I was 16 because of family problems. I really had no choice. I started working at Avro Aircraft prior to the time they were developing the Arrow.
Yep.
We were fixing up old Lancaster bombers and building the CF-100s, which was a fighter that they used during the Korean War, and then we all got involved with the Arrow.
Excellent.
When the government canceled that contract, without an education, it's a little bit difficult to find a job in those days. But I found a job in a company that was just establishing itself in Canada, making office furniture. I worked in the factory, and within a few years was the president of the company, and I've been in the furniture industry ever since. I sold our company when I was 60, 25 years ago, and got a little bored, so started another company, and today it's thriving, approximately 400 employees, and
Excellent.
very, very
And you just did that as a hobby. You weren't even taking it serious. You just started the company.
Well, I needed something to do.
Yeah, just to keep you busy now. And for those of you who just joined, I'm here with Bill Phillips, 85-year-old. He's super fit. He demonstrates to me an excellent role model of a really well-rounded and full life, because Bill's been married for 60 years. He still runs the company of 400 employees. He's hitting the weights 4 times a week. Now, I wanted to touch base on a few things. So you worked with the Avro Arrow,
right?
And as you know, Toronto now has the Toronto Arrows rugby team that's largely inspired by the Avro Arrow, among other things.
Very
and
surprising.
yes, and I wanted to talk to you about 2 things about that. One time you mentioned to me seeing a UFO hover, and I was wondering if you could speak to the experience with Avro building a UFO, I believe in the 1950s.
Yes.
And it was top secret at the time, and now it's public knowledge. So I was wondering if you could just, for those, hey Amanda, for those who are curious, just tell us a little bit about this UFO experiment you were involved in the 50s.
Well, it was a very, very secret program. Only a few people had clearance to be involved in it, and I happened to be one of them. It was a fascinating program. It really looked like a saucer. It had pods for 2 passengers, or pilots, if you like.
Okay.
And it hovered. It didn't really fly at any time, but it did hover. And then, of course, when the Diefenbaker government canceled the Arrow, the saucer went with it.
Absolutely. And you actually saw it hover
Absolutely.
live, didn't
I was
you?
there. Yeah.
So, and for those of you who don't know, you could actually Google search this, the Avro flying saucer. So, and you're one of the remaining still living people that were involved in that project at the time, right?
I don't know how many of us are still here, but
yeah. So not many are here now. So he was there back in the 1950s, saw the UFO hover and everything else, and now it's public knowledge. But back then it was top secret. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is that moment when the Avro Arrow contract was canceled. There was a lot of people who responded very negatively to that. The people that worked there, they didn't really know what to do with themselves and their life and everything else at that point, some of the engineers. And then, of course, you ended up taking your experiences and transitioning it into something better. I was wondering if you could just share with everyone what the work climate was like when that contract on the Avro Arrow was canceled and how people handled it differently.
Well, first of all, I should say that it was a very exciting time. The developing that kind of a project was really exciting. A lot of the people who I worked with were engineers, and they went down to Florida, to Nassau, and I think were very instrumental in sending someone to the moon and so on. But, you know, the ordinary working stiff like me, it was a huge shock.
Yeah, yeah.
And we had lots of friends that had been developed over the 10 years I was there, and it was just dramatic. Matter of fact, I got married the next day, and I was out of a job.
Wow, so you lost your job and got married the next day.
Exactly. It closed on a Friday, and it was a loudspeaker announcement that said the contract had been canceled, and everybody was laid off. So I got married the next day, and it was difficult.
Excellent. Now, I was wondering if you could share with us, how many years have you been married now?
60. 60 last February.
60 years he's been married since last February. Obviously, in today's day and age, we struggle with relationship challenges and such, divorces on the rise, everything else. And you, for the past, how many years in a row have you taken your wife on a world cruise every year?
This year we did our 7th, and we're booked for next year, and actually 21 as well.
Oh, wow. Excellent. So do you have any bits of, for those watching and everyone in general, do you have any bits of relationship advice or wisdom that you could share with the rest of us?
Well, it's a difficult question. I think that my wife and I, we met, I think I was 23.
Yeah.
And we were very close over the past 60 years. We've had, you know, arguments just like anybody else, but we always forgive each other, and we listen to each other. That's the main thing. Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of us don't take the time to listen to our spouse because maybe we're too busy or whatever. But you've got to take the time. You've got to sit down for half an hour or an hour each and every day. You've got to talk about things that have happened. You've got to talk about things that are bothering you. And I think if you get into that habit, it certainly adds to a very good relationship. Absolutely.
And we all know relationships are so important. And, you know, everything in life is easier when you've got a good relationship, and everything is harder when you have a bad or sour relationship. So Bill's challenge for all of us is to at least schedule half an hour to chat with your partner every single day. And the return on investment, obviously you've been experiencing over 60 years of happy marriage. Absolutely, right?
Absolutely, without any doubt.
And now, how many kids do you have, Bill?
We have 4.
Okay, could you tell us a little bit about each one?
Sure. My youngest birth son, I have 2 adopted children.
Okay.
My youngest birth son is the president of the company now. The next son up has a real estate business, and we own some buildings in the city that he rents out. Actually, he owns them.
Okay.
And my other 2 sons have difficulties from birth. One is a little person, and okay. The other one has a learning disability.
Okay.
He worked in the factory and just recently retired. His name is Rick.
Okay, excellent.
And I'm keeping him on the payroll, but he doesn't have to come to work.
Okay, excellent. Sounds like a great retirement plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So in addition to balancing everything else, you know, having a son with a learning disability, a son who's a little person, how tall would he be exactly?
I don't know. I would think about 4 feet.
About 4 feet tall. So obviously being able to be there and help them through their life challenges and be a guide and a coach and a mentor for them is another tremendous achievement of your life.
Well, it's something that certainly keeps you together. I mean, you have to concentrate on that kind of a situation all the time, and you can't let go. Both of them have had a good life, I think. They're happy now. Our son, the little guy, just left. He lives in Gettysburg. He just left yesterday.
Yep.
To go home. He's been with us for a few days, as he does every summer. And it's always good to see them.
Excellent. Now, for anybody who's just starting a family on their own or just getting into the parenting role, what kind of wisdom have you collected in your role as a father of 4 kids over all those years that you'd like to share with anyone who's just beginning on that journey?
Well, again, listen. They have thoughts and they have concerns too, even when they're very young.
Yeah.
You've got to give them time. You got to listen to them. It's just like a business. If you haven't got a formal education, as I don't have, you have to listen to the guys who are in the corporate world with you, and you can take that learning into private business, and that's the way I did it. I spent several years in the corporate world, and then I started on my own, using the knowledge that I learned during those corporate years.
Excellent, excellent. So the next topic I wanted to discuss with you is health. So you're now 85 years old, you're working out all the time, and you and I met, I believe it was your physio, Lawrence, that referred you to me because you had some aches and pains. And I just want you to tell us a little bit about what's your health routine in general, and like eating and exercise, and what's kind of your philosophy when it comes to health?
Well, I think it's basically 3 things: what you eat, how you rest, and even more importantly is how you keep your body fit. You've got to work out. I've worked out all my life, and I think that without it, I know that if I miss working out for 3 days, I miss it dramatically, and I can feel it. I think it's important that you work out religiously, and there's a lot of times you'll say, I don't feel like it today, but you got to do it, and you got to make time. As far as diet is concerned, I happen to be married to a wonderful cook who really takes care of me on that score. And as far as rest is concerned, don't be afraid to have a little nap during the day if you feel like it. But get to bed on a regular basis, and don't read in bed or watch television. Just get into bed and go to sleep.
Excellent. So turn the TV off, get to bed, go to sleep. Excellent advice there. Now, and what's your favorite types of workouts to do at the gym when you go to the gym?
Well, I vary them. As you know, you give me a couple of programs that I alternate.
Yeah.
And then on the 3rd and 4th, I usually do quite a bit of cardiovascular. Either an hour on the elliptical or an hour on the bike, and or skipping. I do 500 skips. That's an important part of the workout.
Excellent. And for those health professionals who are wondering, the workouts that I have Bill doing right now is Tabata workouts, where you do exercises for 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. You do the exercise for 4 minutes, then you move on to the next exercise. So 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off for a total of 4 minutes. And we're doing free weights right now using a chair, bench, free weights, and we do about 7 exercises in that format. And then for cardiovascular principles, I apply a lot from the 1 Minute Workout by Dr. Marty Gabala. He's a researcher at McMaster University, and I believe his information on cardiovascular fitness is excellent. I would highly recommend him to anyone who's interested on the information that we've been applying together. Now, career, so you've had a very, one could say you've had a very successful career, especially consider that, you finished high school at the age of 16, we're done with that. And then you went on to work for Avro with the Aero and even the UFO that they had at the time. Then you started your own company at age 60, and you're still
I had one before that. This is the second company.
Okay, so you started 2 companies, very successful. You've even got your family involved in it. What to you has been the secrets to success in professional career?
Well, I think as far as I'm concerned, me personally, being in the corporate world for as many years as I was, and listening to my not only my bosses but my peers, how to run a business, what the accounting things you should be looking for, how to get the most out of people. Those are the things that I think are extremely important. Getting people to like you, delegating, all of those things, I think make it a lot easier to accept the responsibilities of running a company like mine. The people after 25 years are like family to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I take that personally. So I think that success is listening and treating people fairly and with respect.
Absolutely. Great words of advice and wisdom. And I remember hearing once that you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. You know, so surrounding yourself with good people, treating other people like family, and I think is great advice for all of us in our careers moving forward. Now, a couple quick, just philosophical questions. You know, if say today was your last day on Earth, what kind of messages would you want to leave humanity with?
Give me an aspirin.
Yeah. Be like, whoa, what's going on? Today's the last day on Earth. What do we do? Absolutely.
I really, that's a tough question. I just say be true to yourself, be true to your family, and, you know, just do the best you can.
Be true to yourself, true to your family, do the best you can. And a lot of people, I've been asked, you know, what's a quick shortcut on that? And I tell a lot of people, let your conscience be your guide. You know,
Absolutely.
I tell people, let that voice from within, you know when you're doing right, you know when you're doing wrong. Just actually listen to that voice would be good advice, sound advice for all of us.
Absolutely.
And then other than that, do you have any other advice or anything you want to share with any viewers here today who've kind of tuned in to kind of be able to, and first of all, I do appreciate you coming on. For those who know Bill, he's a very humble guy, and he's not one to blow his own horn or anything like that. And, you know, I did have to twist his arm just to get him to share his story a bit, because I think it's a very inspirational story for all of us on how to live your life and how to have a very complete and full life. I think is definitely what he role models for the rest of us. And I thought it'd be great to pick his brain, but not only do it just for myself, but be able to do it in a way that we can share his wisdom with all of you and anyone who may be watching this video later on. So do you have any other lasting bits of advice or anything else to say for anybody who's tuned in here today to check it out?
Well, I think that best advice I can give at this moment is to find a guy like this. He's a little cruel, you know. I mean, his programs are very difficult, but he's really seriously concerned about everybody's health that he works with, and you have to listen to his advice because he's very convincing.
I may not always be right, but as long as I'm convincing, and
Exactly.
and I think that's good advice for myself included, is that we all benefit from having a guide or a coach. You know, that's the reason every single Olympic
Absolutely.
athlete has a coach, because a coach can take you further than you could on your own. And a coach is kind of like, you know, if you're journeying to a kingdom in a far off land, it might be like the path you're on might feel like quicksand and you're just sinking deeper and deeper. And a coach might be able to take you on a path going in the same direction that's much safer and much easier. So that's how I kind of compare the analogy to having a coach. So I think all of us are here and we all have a very important life mission, and every single person matters, and you influence people in far more ways than you know. So I think we all owe it to ourselves to find people and surround ourselves with people who can bring out our best and help coach us through life. I mean, we're all here for the first time, as far as we know, trying to, and I think kind of like the arrow, it's like, you know, life is like, you're basically like a pilot who's trying to learn how to fly midair. And, you know, sometimes we get the controls messed up and we make some bad decisions, and then we try to correct the course. And sometimes it's helpful just to bring in somebody who's already flown that plane that way before, who can just say, here, let's make it easier this way or that way. So
don't be afraid to make a bad decision, because it's better than not making any decisions at all. I've made bad decisions in my life, you know, business-wise and even family-wise. But as long as you recognize those problems, accept the fact that you made an error or you made a bad decision, and never make it again. That's the important thing.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people suffer from perfectionism in today's day and age, especially in the corporate world. And that's where people like over-identify your worth with your achievements and how well you do them. So a lot of people are afraid to fail because they over-identify their worth with their accomplishments and achievements. But, you know, just as we wouldn't expect any of your kids to go to school and right from day one get 100% on every single test until they graduate, right, we shouldn't hold ourselves to that kind of an unfair standard in life that we're never allowed to make a mistake. I think a lot of those mistakes are just learning opportunities as we discover our boundaries and we discover strategies that work in life and strategies that don't work as well. And I like what you said, just be mindful of how it's working out for you. Like, don't make the same mistake twice.
And also recognize the mistake, because if you don't, you'll keep making the same mistake.
Absolutely. And there's nothing more frustrating than seeing a friend or family member that's very resistant to that seemingly obvious life lesson where they continue to make the same mistakes. It's almost like they're under a spell. And awareness can sometimes have a curative effect. So I found, you know, in my life, if I'm trying to bring someone's awareness to a life strategy they have that they're consistently doing that's destructive, I'll always just say, you know how you do this, this, and this all the time? Well, how is that working out for you? Do you find that, you know, when you make these kinds of selfish decisions, it just makes things worse, that people like you less, or you have more conflict with people? Conversely, are you willing to try a different strategy? Are you willing to try being generous and kind and being open-minded, you know, not being afraid to fail in life, right?
Right.
So excellent words of advice. So I want to thank Bill Phillips for coming in here today. Once again, this is the man who has been married for 60 years. He takes his wife on a world cruise every year. He dropped out of school at the age of 16. He started 2 companies. He's still at the helm of 1 company with 400 employees. He works out 4 times a week on the weights. He's doing Tabata workouts. He's doing cardio workouts. And he's got lots of great advice for us here today. Just to sum it up, you know, one of the pieces of advice he had was that relationships are important. You should spend 30 minutes a day, schedule it in just to talk to your spouse and listen to them. Was one of his bits of advice. Being able to do the same thing with your kids. In business, surround yourself with really good people who bring out your best, and be open-minded to their wisdom and suggestions. And did I miss anything else?
No, except it's hot as hell here.
It is hot as hell here. And did you wear any sunscreen?
No.
Well, that's a lesson you're going to have to learn the hard way. Bill, you're 85 years old. You didn't learn how to protect yourself from the sun.
Well, I didn't think we were going to be in the sun today.
Absolutely. But you are the nicest dressed out here, I have to say.
Oh, thanks.
And it's good to get some of this vitamin D from the sun. So once again, I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom and being a great role model for the rest of us. Everybody, thanks for joining in. Till next time, take care.